Little housekeeping. I've just released a brand new game called Rescue from Poseidon's Gate. It's at our booth 306. It actually doesn't go live until Wednesday, but we are selling here for you special PRGE attendees. And the reason it's a housekeeping issue is we have one customer who bought 2 PAL games yesterday, and his registration didn't go through. Are you in the audience?
Probably me.
It's probably you.
Yeah.
Can you come to our booth and make sure we get you registered on those games?
Okay, I will come.
Because we register the games to an account on our website, and that lets you go to our portal and manage the games that you own, transfer them if you want. You get your free downloads.
High scores.
High scores. You can post high scores at the end. We put QR codes at the end of the game, and with your smartphone, you can submit your high score to our high score board. It's almost like we've attached the Atari 2600 to the internet, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so here we are.
And if your score,
Are you ready over there?
and if your score reaches the club plateau, you'll get a patch in the mail.
Yeah.
Like the good old Activision days.
Of course, you have to pay for the patch. It's $2.
Shipping and handling.
Shipping and handling.
They're the same price as the Hero
But
patch, if
unless
you've
you're
seen
in
that
Europe,
online,
it costs
$400.
$1.70 for an international first class stamp.
Right. And tariffs.
No tariffs.
Sorry.
Who all has patches that they actually earned in the 1980s? Ah, very
Yeah,
nice.
those are worth some serious buckos, those Activision ones. Anybody have a hero patch from the 1980s?
Ah, they're very
Now
expensive.
that's worth some money.
I have a private eye, too.
Oh,
You have
private
a
eye.
private eye.
I don't
Oh
think
my
I even have a
God.
private eye.
That's crazy. Now, someone told us, who told us this yesterday or the day before, that there's a 4th patch
For Star Master,
for Star Master.
that was only given,
It was like an internal,
An
inside
internal
the
patch.
company.
We've
There was a 4th patch.
We don't remember
And they
that.
actually,
Those were chevrons, right?
so.
yes, they were chevrons, that's right. Yes, yeah, I have them
You
as well.
got
but
3
not-
of them? You're gonna be lucky you make it out of this room alive.
Not on you.
Oh, not on you. Okay, good.
So, title of this presentation, From Pitfall to Poseidon. It's hard to name anything. I mean, when I named Pitfall, I called it Jungle Runner, and it almost went out as Jungle Runner. And we finally said, we need to have a trade name or something. And we had brainstorming sessions. Somebody said Zulu Gold. And I said, that sounds like some high-end marijuana or something. and we just went back and back and back, and finally, I like puns, and I said, look, the guy falls in pits. We're going to call it Pitfall. And that stuck. But anyway, so the title of this presentation probably means nothing because it's just a title. But you're here because you know our work from the past, and you know we're still doing it, now. So, I don't know, start with any backgrounds. What do you want to do?
How many people have heard us talk before?
And you're back.
And you're back.
Well, I can do
So
some soft
if we
shoe.
say the same thing, you're all gonna leave. So we have to get clever here.
Okay.
All right, so everybody knows the background. David founded Activision, left Atari, founded Activision. That was in 79.
Late 79.
79. Dan and I grew up on the East Coast. We were a long way from David. And we were in the electronic toy industry to start. Somebody actually brought a Wildfire pinball from Parker Brothers here for me to sign. Thought that was pretty funny. Those were our early forays into entertainment software. And I reverse engineered the Atari around 1980, and then did Space Jockey, an old classic, no patch for that one, and Donkey Kong. And then I called the West Coast and asked Activision if they needed any games. And we've worked together ever since. We opened Activision's East Coast office in 1982 in beautiful Glen Rock, New Jersey. Claim to fame, meaning that our parking lot was next to the Nabisco plant where they baked cookies. So the aroma coming in and out of work was,
Except about once a month when they burned the entire batch.
yeah, when they burned them, it was
And
not
it
good.
was just smoke.
Well, let's talk about some of the stories. We had joined Activision, and I remember when Tom Lopez was the head of product development coming out after we first opened the office and wanted to see what we were working on. And I think Garry was starting Keystone Kapers, which was a vertical game at that point.
It was a vertical game, kind of like Crazy Climber.
But I think he wanted to make a really bad version to show Tom, to say, here's what we have, and we were all proud of it, and it was a piece of crap. And we were going to trick Tom into thinking, oh my God, why did we hire these guys? And I think you did something that looked terrible and flipped it on, and he was kind of quiet.
God, I don't remember that.
I remember that. And then Garry said, no, here's the real
You
thing.
remember? I don't remember that.
Maybe we only talked about it, but I thought you had
Okay.
done that. I
I
remember.
mean, actually, the best thing was when Garry called Tom cold out of the blue and said, I program Atari 2600 games. And Tom said, no, you don't. There's guys at Atari, and there's guys who left Atari, and that's it. And he said, well, I'm working on Donkey Kong for Coleco right now. You know, and he said, I'll be out I'll take a flight tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, the question, what he said was, I would like to come see your facilities tomorrow. We were in Gary's basement that wasn't
Unfinished
any
basement.
unfinished. And he looked at me and
Wires,
said,
pipes.
this guy wants to come see our facilities. I'm looking around, what, does he want to see our toilet? I mean, seriously.
It was
And
pretty bad.
they flew out the next day.
So we set up this we spent all night cleaning this basement up and getting it perfect. I mean, you can't do anything, there's no ceiling, so you can't get rid of the pipes and the wires and all that. But we made it as presentable as we could. And then he comes,
And Levy, right?
and
Jim Levy.
Levy was
President,
the-
Vice
CEO
President.
of Activision and the head of Vice President of Product Development.
Yep. So we have a
Get on a
little
plane
nook and cranny in the corner there where we all sit down, very serious, so we're real business. Yeah, and then my doorbell rings. And I said, you hold on one second. I run upstairs, and it's the Hackensack water meter guy. And he says, I have to get access to your basement. I have to look at the meter.
Now.
I said, you can't do it now, come back tomorrow. He said, no, I have to do it now. So we had to go down and move the meeting so he could get into the water meter.
Move a 200-pound wooden desk.
It was a little, slightly embarrassing,
But
and I do remember one quick thing, when we cleaned up the basement, think of this as your worst nightmare. All programmers drink Coke
Yes.
and eat M&Ms. We were cleaning up that basement, and I had a Coke, we all did. We were all drinking, getting the basement all clean. And at one point, I don't know where I put it, and I saw it over there. I took a sip, and it was a Coke from about 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was good.
That had been sitting in a corner of the basement, and you have never.
So about 2 weeks later, they came back, and we had our company was called ISS, Imaginative Systems Software, where we did Apple software. They came back for a party, and we had a party at Gary's house, and we hired a gorillagram to come by and sing to Jim Levy and Tom Lopez and thank them.
Jim was not thrilled.
Jim was not thrilled. I have pictures of that gorillagram I found recently.
Yes, fabulous.
Yep.
So anyway,
So it was really serious work back then.
it was.
Yeah.
It was. We were serious guys and not having any fun at all whatsoever. And it's all because we're very good at counting cycles. 76 cycles on a line. That's why we're here. It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, the Atari 2600 was designed. I joined Atari in '77, and they had just published the 2600, so I wasn't involved in its development. But it was designed so that you could play Atari's arcade hits at home. You know, Nolan had all of these arcade games, and he was really big in the arcades, but he said, I've got these hits, I want to take these hits home. So the hardware was designed to play Tank and Pong, and that was it. It was really that was the intention. It had two 8-bit objects that were going to be the tanks, and it had three 1-bit objects. Two of them were the tank's missiles, and the other one was the ball for Pong. And then the 8-bit objects would be the paddles for Pong. So basically, we could make two cartridges Tank and Pong. And 6,000 cartridges later, or however many different games have been made for the 2600, what we did is we found different ways to use the hardware than were intended by the designer. I was sitting at Atari one time doing something that kind of looked like, it was kind of like the prototype for putting up 6 digits of display, which was considered impossible with 2 sprites, right? And I was doing that, and I felt a presence behind me, and turned around. It was Jay Miner, who had designed the chip, the video chip, for the Atari 2600. And he was just shaking his head, and he basically then said, I had no idea that the chip that I designed could do what you're doing right there. So that's what we were most proud of, is the ability to do things that were not intended for the hardware, but because it worked, we could make it work. And the beauty of it is it works every time. You write software for modern computers, and the operating system doesn't interrupt and something glitches and whatever. When you're writing on the 2600, that's the nice thing about it, is you've got the dedicated microprocessor. Every single cycle of it is under your control. And I really like the fact that if I write some code and it's buggy, and then I fix the bug, I know when I fix that bug that it's going to work every single time for the next 50 years, exactly the way I fixed it.
Except for that guy who called us and said that alien abduction didn't work on his 2600 Junior.
Well, that was weird, yeah.
about a month ago. And he had us running around in circles. Is he here in the audience? He came to our booth yesterday. And we told him we ended up getting like 6 Atari 2600 Juniors out of God knows where. Tried the code out on all of them. Verified that it was the only machine in the world it didn't work on was his machine.
And then it turns out he had a composite mod done on it. Oh yeah, you've been messing around in the hardware, have you?
Something happened. So that was, but outside of that.
But imagine getting that email, you saying, it's in ROM, I can't change it. I've sold all these games to all you people, and now it doesn't work on the Junior? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Best of luck to you,
Don't use the Junior.
He told us, he said, I have another machine.
Right.
But I really like playing in the Junior.
It works on my 7800.
Because it has
on my Heavy Sixer.
S-Video. It had an S-Video out. And he said, I really like the way that looks. I really want it to work on there.
So anyway, they've gone down a tangent. Where are we going?
Yes.
Well,
bugs. We're going with bugs.
Okay.
We're talking about bugs. Have you ever had a bug in one of your games, Dave?
Yes.
Yes, they're now called features because they're
Well,
done.
that's the thing, is we go through as much testing as we can, and then we release it on ROM. And you don't send out a patch on a game you put in ROM. How many people have gotten the latest Call of Duty, and you take it home, you say, I want to play it, and it says updating for 4 hours.
Or 4 days, depending.
Yeah.
Well, we can't update it, so once it's in ROM, as Dan just said, there are no bugs in a game in ROM. They're now called features, because they're permanent. I'm sorry. You want to do it? There are some weird bugs in the Boy and His Blob, but...
Yeah, I was just going to say, the brick wall is my favorite. That's a great one.
Well, all right, we'll talk about the brick wall.
Everybody know a Boy and His Blob, NES?
So you toss jelly beans to the blob and he transforms into things. It was just kind of a cool concept of having a tool using adventure where you don't actually leave the paradigm of the game to select a new tool. You actually stay in the game, and it's your blob that you throw a colored flavor of jelly bean to. And one of the items in the game when it was submitted to Nintendo was a brick wall. And what was the colored flavored jelly bean? Grape.
Grape Wall of China.
Yeah, it's grape wall.
Right.
I've
Everyone had a pun.
I've admitted to using puns in my games.
Right.
So anyway, 3 months after we submitted to Nintendo, we get a phone call from Nintendo, and they said, we've got a problem. A boss lost his blob. And you could do that if he's jumping along, following you along, but let's say you left him down below and he's a trampoline and he's stuck there. You're supposed to whistle and then throw him a honey jelly bean so he turns into a hummingbird and he flies up to you. Well, if you don't do that, and you go somewhere where you can no longer reach him by throwing him a honey jelly bean, he is stuck in the world forever. You can never get back to him because you need him to climb back up to get over to where he is or whatever. And they said, it won't do. We'll not release the game because we can lose the blob. And I knew it could happen. I just said, that's part of the game. Keep track of your blob, for God's sake.
But we were talking to Howard Phillips, you know, the guy with the bow tie, who's in all the cartoons and Nintendo Power, and he said, nope, you gotta fix it.
Right. So I had to blow off in a very important event, but I went back to the drawing board, and what I did was, I said, you know, this brick wall doesn't really do much. It's not really very useful in the game. So I'm gonna change it, and I'm going to change the grape jelly bean to the flavor ketchup. Who wants to eat a ketchup jelly bean? And I told the blob, do not eat the ketchup jelly bean. And if you try to throw him a ketchup jelly bean, he frowns at you and just lets it fall to the ground. And if the ketchup jelly bean hits the ground and he's not on the screen, he teleports to the spot on the ground where the ketchup jelly bean lands, because you use the ketchup jelly bean for the blob to catch up. Okay.
Very nice.
So I did all that in one night, and anyway, so it's all it used to be the wall. The wall graphic is still in the ROM, and in fact, if you can trick the blob into eating the ketchup jelly bean, he will turn into a brick wall.
And the way you do it is he makes the decision of whether he wants what you're gonna toss when you toss it, not when it's coming toward him. So you toss a flavor he likes, and while the jelly bean's flying through the air, you change the flavor. And now he is sitting there and he goes, oh, I like those. And he opens his mouth and he catches the ketchup because he doesn't know to frown. He turns into a brick wall. So try it. Try it at home.
I'm not sure I've ever been able to make it happen. It's really tricky to make it happen.
It is. The timing has to be just right.
But anyway, so yeah, the brick wall is still in there because Howard Phillips demanded that I change the game.
Yes.
And it's really funny because in those days, Nintendo was, they were dictatorial. They basically said, if you don't submit your game by May 31st, we will not make Christmas with it. We have to test it, we have to approve it, we have to put the seal on it, all those things. And they said, we can't even do it. We can't manufacture it unless it's done on May 31st. So here is September 25th, and Nintendo comes in and says, we need you to change your code. And I did, submit it to them, and they made it by Christmas easily. They made it just as easily by Christmas as they could have if we did it on May 31st.
I called them up and said, yeah, but we have a new code, but what about all that time for manufacturing? And Juana says, what are you talking about?
Well, that doesn't apply to us, they say.
But they're good folks at Nintendo. We really like them. Dan, a bug story?
A bug story. I go back to the one David talks about with decathlon. That's got to be the funniest one I've ever heard. Dave, you want
Yes.
to tell that one?
Decathlon is a very funny one.
Well, thank you for pointing out my other bug. So anyway, I'm working on decathlon. I've just finished decathlon. It's 10 events. It's got, all the running events, and everybody loves it because you break joysticks with it. You don't have to. You can use a real light touch on the joystick and actually run faster. Don't rip the joystick apart. And at the same time, there's a young, ill youngster who goes to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and what is his wish? He wants to visit the Activision factory, go into the lab where nobody else was allowed, and he wanted secret access to the lab to see our latest game. And so we obliged and set him all up. He got to tour the thing, and then they bring their cameras. They want to document all that's going on. And so we set him up with, he's the first non-employee to play decathlon. So we gave him the 2600 TV cameras are rolling, documentary filmmakers are asking him questions and all this. And so
Dave's watching him play
I'm sitting
while
there as well.
the documentary people are talking to Dave. So he has half an eye on the kid, half an eye on the guy asking questions.
So he's playing decathlon, and he gets up to the pole vault event. And with the pole vault event, you run as fast as you can, then you push the button, and it plants the thing, and then you fly up as high as you're going to go based on your speed, and hopefully you clear the pole vault and whatever. And so he's playing that, and then they ask him a question while he's in the middle of this. And he plants the pole, and he turns his attention away, and he pushes the button again, and again, and again. And every time he pushes the button, the pole vaulter goes higher and higher. Until it's off the screen. And I'm sitting there watching this happen with cameras in my face. And I have a good poker face, I have to tell you, so, you know. And then at the end of that, I said, you know, can we take like a 10-minute break? I mean, the boy looks tired, you know. And walked right over to manufacturing. I had just submitted the code that day. And I said,
Stop the presses.
Stop the presses. And I'm not sure. I mean, the guy said, no, I can't. I've already sent this off to Japan to manufacture mask ROMs. I said, no, fix it. And to this day, I don't know if some of them got made with the bug in it and some don't. So next time you're playing decathlon, try pushing the little red button as many
As many times as you can. There's another famous bug one. This is not famous at all, but it's great. John Van Ryzen of Hero fame, right?
Yes.
Everybody loves Hero, best game ever. John was doing a game for us on the Atari 7800. There was a time when the Tramiel owned Ataris tried to re-release the 7800 against the NES, and we put out a few 7800 games. John Van Ryzen did one. And John is a wonderful guy, just slightly cantankerous. Just a little, he can have his moments where he's just a little intolerant. So he finally finished after a huge crunch. We were trying to make the proverbial Christmas chip, and he was so sick of us and so sick of the game that he said, I'm going away, don't bother me.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, I
So
remember.
him and his girlfriend hop in a car and drive to Acadia National Park
Yeah, and in a cabin.
in Maine, in a cabin on the lake.
Yep.
Doesn't tell anybody where he's going, right? But, you know, when you have a company with 100 people and people sitting next to him and around him when he's in the office, yeah, stuff like that may be available on his hard drive behind the password. So we find a bug. I'm like, well, we're screwed now. We're going to have to wait for him to get
Do you
back.
remember what game it was?
No, it may have been F-18 Hornet.
F-18 Hornet, yeah.
So we didn't know what to do. We were panicked. So we got one of our testing guys and we sent him on a...
To find John Van Ryzen in the woods.
With the development
In
system,
Arcadia National Park.
With a computer and a development system, all the cabling. And Van Ryzen is in Acadia National Park in a romantic cabin on the...
Yep, fireplace going.
Yeah, and the doorbell rings. And he opens it up and all he can say is, what
The- He was not happy.
And he fixed the bug. The guy waited. He fixed the bug, came back with the computers. John came back and said, don't ever do that to me.
That's a 6 or 7 hour drive from New Jersey.
Yes,
There
that
and
was
back.
wonderful. God, we were just notorious. We were torturous there. I mean, that was crazy.
Well, that reminds me, of course, of how we released the Boy and His Blob initially.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true.
Basically, the Boy and His Blob development cycle was the shortest we'd ever worked on. We really had five or 6 weeks to do the game and did both worlds, the Earth, looked like Pitfall II and underneath caverns, and Garry did Blobolonia, and we tied the two together, and Blob would fly, turn into a rocket, and you'd fly to Blobolonia, yada, yada. And that was just the most massive. Everybody in the company working on it, we were working literally 16 hours a day minimum. The last week I was working 20 hours a day with 4 hours of sleep, and then the last 3 days was 24 hours a day before getting on a plane to go to Chicago and show it at the CES show.
Well, the reason was Dave had the incredible idea for the game
And
in
Nintendo
April.
told us if it's not done by May 31st, you can't release it.
I mean, in March, I think he showed it to us.
Yeah, March or April.
Can we get this done for May 31st?
Yeah.
And
But anyway, so the thing about Nintendo is if you didn't send the game to them by close of business, 5 p.m. in Seattle, on May 31st. Don't even bother, don't send us the game. So we basically flew a guy out there with a development system and a ROM burner, sat in a hotel across the street from Nintendo,
And waited.
we were modeming him code at 4 o'clock that night.
Yeah, what was it? What, 800
Using
baud? What was
AOL
it? I
at,
mean, just
1,200 baud modem
1,200
or whatever
baud?
we had back then.
And they burned the ROM, made a cartridge,
and walked across
walked across the
450
street, walked in
something.
5, handed it to them. See, we couldn't afford the 1 day for shipping. We could not do it. It was that insane. The things we've done, what a lunacy of a business.
And
you know?
why did we get back into this business?
I don't know.
You know, you've all probably, if you come to my booth, you probably heard me say that the reason we called the company Audacity Games is because who else would have the audacity to start a brand new company to make games for a 50-year-old console? And that's us.
Yeah, go tell a VC that. Hey, want to invest? We're raising money. What are you doing? Well, there's a console that stopped being sold in 1986, and we're going to make games for it. That's good.
But we love it, and it's a semi-retirement business, although, you know, some people think retirement means sitting on a beach. That would be hell. Not, you know, just not doing anything. I mean, we love creating. We've been creating this stuff for 50 years. So really what it entails is no arbitrary deadlines. That's why it's called a semi-retirement business, is nobody tells us when to finish a game,
Yep.
you know?
There's no suit calling up and going, I know you're almost done, but it's got to be done by next Friday.
Yeah, the best line we ever heard from a boss was, I don't want anybody staying all night, but it's got to be done in the morning. True statement.
Yes, that was a classic. It's like 7 o'clock in the evening when he tells us that.
Yep.
I don't want any of that nonsense staying all night, but it's got to be on my desk at 9 o'clock in the morning. Oh, okay. I get it. So, anybody have a particular game they want to ask a question about, technical or otherwise? You know, there's a lot of, sometimes we go deep into the technical side, and some audiences like that. Other times we stay on the light and fluffy, funny story side about all the crazy things that have happened to us.
Super Battle Tank?
Yes, Super Battle Tank. Super Battle Tank has a lot of interesting side stories about it that people don't know. Number one, it was in a movie. Movie Toys with Robin Williams. The scene where the general goes into the arcade and plays a tank game and shoots the UN trucks. Goddamn UN shouldn't be here anyway. Shoots the truck. That is Super Battle Tank. The Fox came to us and we modified the code to make the game they needed for the arcade. The second piece of trivia.
If you watch the movie, it's the last credit on the last screen.
Yes. Right after no animals were harmed. You see absolute entertainment.
No UN representatives were harmed in making this film.
And the second, even more obscure one, is when U2, the band, toured in the Zoo TV tour. They called me at my house, at my office, in my office, at Absolute Entertainment, as the manager of the band. And he said, who was the bassist?
The Edge.
The Edge.
The guitarist.
Is crazy about Super Battle Tank. They want to use it on stage for something having to do with VR and peace in the world and, you know, this whole thing, and he's going to play it. Do we have your permission to do that? And they did it. And if you're able to get a video of the YouTube, of the tour for U2, there's a scene where you see him from behind this giant screen, and he's driving through the desert, and music playing. That was really funny.
Do you have a specific question about Super Battle Tank? Why was it super?
Whatever you think is worth sharing about it.
But then that kind of deal reminds me of the phone call you got after putting out F-18
F-18 Hornet,
Yes,
that's right.
That was great. That was a Van Ryzen game on the 7800. And when every game we do as a publisher, we have a trademark lawyer, and we go trademark it. you know, this is standard fare. And you put a TM or a circle R on the box so you protect your rights. We did that. And years later, like 6, 7, 8 years later, I get a call. It's the general counsel for McDonnell Douglas. And he says, is this Garry Kitchen? I said, yeah. I said, who's this? And he said, your name is listed as the administrative contact on the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office website. And I want to know why you have a trademark for my goddamn plane.
That's true. That's true.
And I said, what do you mean? He said, you have a trademark for F-18 Hornet. And I said, yeah, but as my trademark attorney has explained to me, as long as you're in a different field.
It's for Class 9.
You can have Cadillac dog food and Cadillac cars, and you're okay. And he goes, yeah, that'll be great, except that we're making a flight simulator. So now we're in software, and I want my plane back. So we negotiated. And it was quite a negotiation.
Garry gets to fly it once a year.
Yes. I was on the phone with him for about 15 minutes, and I got to the point where I could just hear the steam coming out of his ears. And I said, all right, that's enough. We're done. I'll take it. And I kept pushing him up and up and up. And he said, I'm not giving you a penny more. And I said, all right, that's fine. So we got a good amount of money to sell them their jet back. It was great. Yes?
You all have written for probably collectively almost every system that's been released. Do you all have a favorite system you developed for, maybe a system that you absolutely hated developing for?
Well,
you
the
know,
Atari is our favorite.
Come on.
Well, the 2600 was always our first love, and the challenges are so amazing. But personally, I think both Garry and I loved doing the SNES.
Yes, that's
It was
great.
they had just bought out a 16-bit microprocessor. They had done some really cool things in the hardware that we could work with. And yeah, SNES was one of my favorites.
Yeah. iPhone is fun. We've done a lot of iPhone games. And
Yeah,
we had fun with the iPhone.
We had 3 number ones and how many top 10s?
Yeah, we had 7 iPhone games that went to #1 in the store.
7.
Yeah, 7 of them.
2007, 8, 9.
Yeah, in the early days. We had our first game out in the iPhone 3 months after the App Store launched. And that game was picked by Apple to use in an advertising campaign for March Madness.
Which
Because
one
it was
was
a basketball game.
That was
Arcade
Papa Shot or Arcade
Yeah.
Hoops.
Arcade Hoops.
So, yeah, you know, SNES, iPhone, VCS,
What's the worst system?
worst system? Oh,
Genesis.
God,
The
Genesis.
Genesis, yeah.
Well, the
Well, in
Z80
television, you wrote for television. Did you like that?
It was fine.
Okay.
I mean, I tallied it up, and I think counting all the different different phones and everything, I've published games on 25 different consoles.
Ugh.
You know, and every 2 years, a new console came out, and that's the really sucky part. Is you had to now write brand new audio drivers, compressors, decompressors, you know, everything that had anything to do with making games on the console. You had to make new tools for it. And I ended up doing most of the tools, so it was always fell on me. Plus, I had to do new hardware development systems for every system that came out. So.
Yeah. Go ahead, right there.
With the 7800 plus, have you thought of doing 7800 game?
We've had many discussions.
Talked about it.
I mean, I'll be honest. I looked back at Super Skateboarding, and I downloaded the 7800 development manual, and I said, I didn't remember this is how the 7800 worked. I did it when I had to do it, you know? So I don't have a lot of recollection about the 7800 hardware.
I mean, you tell us, who would be interested if we did 7800 games? How many people care about 7800?
Okay.
Well, here's the
Okay.
problem with the 7800, okay? What we focus on in, you know, at Audacity Games is the whole complete inbox, game, hardware, physical cartridge, label, manual. I mean, we went whole hog on this stuff. We have our own injection molding plastic so that we can make the cartridge, and, you know, that's why it took us 3 years just to first announce that we were doing this stuff, because we had to make sure we could do everything. And So the 7800 Plus is an emulator. It's basically, you know, it plays a file. And what we would have to do is we'd have to create a game on the 7800. We'd have to make a ROM, make a new cartridge, a new circuit board, new ROMs, put it all together so that you could plug it into your 7800 so that the 7800 could download its file into the 7800 and play it as an emulator. Why did we go to the trouble of making a cartridge? I mean, because there aren't a lot of 7800s still working out there. You know, unlike the 2600, which there were 26 million of those sold. And so that's why you can still find a heavy sixer if you really want one. So it's just really odd. I can't wrap my head around why am I going to all this trouble to put it inside a cartridge so that they can just, you can plug it into there and have it downloaded into the machine.
And if you're wondering why with the 2600, we started the company before they announced the 2600 Plus.
Exactly.
So we were assuming people were playing it on the old systems. It was cartridge-based.
You know, and to be completely honest, we enjoy doing the 2600 because there's a very high barrier to entry for anybody who isn't a professional to do anything meaningful. I mean, there have been some nice homebrews, but, you know, all due respect, humbly, I think there's a difference between our games and the homebrew games. And we like that gap because it makes our brand special. Yeah, you go to the 7800, you're opening it up a little bit more to people maybe who could come closer to a professional looking game, and I don't know, I'm not sure we want that.
Well, the other hardware issue is there are 8 different configurations of 7800 cartridge. Some with RAM, some with this, some with the sound effects, you know, some have the pokey chip or whatever. We've got all these things, and I mean, our 2600, we have one circuit board, and I had to make the circuit board. I'm not always excited about making 8 circuit boards, you know, just because, and also it would be fewer sales than we have on the 2600.
So the jury's out.
Yeah, sorry.
Right now.
I might sound like I've made up my mind, but
Yes. Right now, the foreman of the jury is pushing everybody in one direction.
We're
not
pushing,
sure.
we're pushing the hardware so much that we hope they look like 7800 games.
Yeah, we had that at the last show. I had like Casey Scold up with the screen with the train, and a guy comes up, he's like, wow, it's 2600, wait a minute. Because we were using a 7800 in the booth, a 7800 Plus. You're running on a 7800, that's how those graphics. I said, no, it's 2600 graphics. Yeah, but look, it's a 7800. Didn't want to go there.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can you talk about wildfire pinball?
Yeah.
Talking about what?
Wildfire pinball.
Wildfire pinball. Great. Very fun. 4-bit microprocessor.
Yeah.
Talk about underpowered.
AMI.
Well, there were two.
Two of them, both Texas.
But yeah, AMI and TI. TI, a TMS 1000. 1.5 kbytes of code, 76 LEDs, turn the LEDs on in sequence to make the ball move around. I'd never written a program.
That was your first program.
My first program. I didn't even write Hello World. And we were in a company where the project just blew up because we were 4 or 6 weeks away from a deadline to show Parker Brothers a playing game. And the programmer we had hired was an incompetent boob. Mm-hmm. The only good thing he did is he introduced me to Doritos. I had never had Doritos.
He also introduced
Brought
us.
him in, introduced me to him. I love
And Hostess donuts.
And Hostess
Chocolate-covered
donuts, yeah.
donuts. They were good.
So he, eventually we figured out this guy doesn't know a goddamn thing, and we are screwed. So it's 11 o'clock at night, we're sitting in our little office, 4 of us, and we go, what are we gonna do? We fired him, we know no other programmers. We got a deadline in like 6 weeks. And you remember in all the movies, you have the Marines all lined up, and somebody says, we need somebody to volunteer on a horrible mission, step forward. Well, I was the guy who was standing there, and all 3 guys stepped back. And I turned to look, and they were all running out of the hallway. And see ya! That was it. So I wrote it. And I learned at that moment in time that I was not too bad at
Gary, I don't want you
code.
working all night, but it's got to be done in the morning.
Yep. So that was Wildfire. Now, I was making like $9,000 a year, and I thought I had done a pretty good job, saved the day, but I didn't even get a raise. And then, and you know, you work for these companies, you have these egomaniacs that own the business. Well, they thought they were all that. So Parker Brothers comes back after Wildfire's a big success and says, why don't you guys give us some ideas for a follow-up product? Become a toy inventor. Because we didn't invent Wildfire. It came from, that's a whole other story, but it came from this well-known inventor.
Vendetta, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, they come up with an idea. So the CEO of the company came up with ideas. The head technical guy came up with ideas. Nobody asked me if I wanted to come up with ideas, but I did. So when Parker Brothers came that day to see our ideas, went in conference room, all the big boards and fancy drawings and everything. CEO pitches his, vice president pitches his. The guy, vice president of Parker Brothers is about to leave. He goes, you got anything else? And then somebody said, I think Garry has something. And I came out and I had redone it to make billiards instead of pinball. Parker Brothers said, now this I like. And they ended up buying that. And I taught the CEO and the vice president a lesson. Because the lowly $9,000 guy in the back sold the idea to Parker.
You still didn't get much of a raise after that either.
No, I didn't. I think I got a $10,000 bonus for bank shot when I had my name on the patent. What are you going to do?
Other
Live and
question?
learn.
How about the gentleman all the way in the back with his hand up?
5 minutes.
So for Pitfall II, the starting score is 4,000, and the maximum score is 199,000. Is there a conscious decision for those numbers, or it seems kind of, maybe start at 5,000, we can get to 200,000, and everything's nice and round?
The score was only 6 digits. I don't know. It may have been that the high digit of the score could only be a 1 and not anything bigger than a 1. I don't remember exactly, but the score starts with some, that was 50 years ago or 40 years ago. So I'm trusting that what you say is true, that it starts at 4,000. I do remember it had to start at some value because when you tripped over the log, it decremented your score. So try to get a perfect score, you have to not ever even kick your toenail on a log. So I had to start with some score so that you could lose some score. But it is not surprising that with the limitations that I had in ROM and such, that it's theoretically possible that the score couldn't go bigger than 199,999, you know, for technical reasons.
That he doesn't
wouldn't
remember.
be surprised at all.
And some things never change. Dave, what's the maximum score you can get in Poseidon?
I don't know.
110,000, right?
Yeah.
So even today, it's still not, forget the round numbers.
Yeah, well,
There's always a reason.
you do the layout, and you say, I'm going to put some diamond ring here and a ruby ring here and whatever, and then at the bottom of my source code, I say I've got 10 diamond rings and 3 of these and throw those. What does that add up to? That's your perfect score. And
goddamn, you're not going back in and changing the code
No.
just to come up with a round number.
Definitely not.
So you just say, all right, that's it. 117,480 is top score. Right there.
So to cap it off, what was your inspiration for Poseidon?
I don't know.
Why now?
Dave was in his tub one night, I remember,
I mean, and this
with
little
one of
guy-
those submarines and baking soda.
I mean, there have been some actual inspirations in video games. I was at a trade show in Chicago for CES in the bus that goes from the hotels to the trade show. And I look out the window and there's this guy who's running across 10 lanes of Lakeshore Drive, heavy traffic, and he's doing it because the parking lot on the non-convention center side is $10 a day, and the parking lot on the convention side is $15 per day. And so he takes his life in his own hands to save $5. Climbed over the fence, ran across, climbed over the fence, right? And I turned to the person sitting next to me and I said, now there's an idea for a video game. And the next time I was ready to make a video game, I made Freeway, which is, you know, crossing 10 lanes of traffic. And, you know, that happens. Otherwise, you start out, I mean, A Boy and His Blob. I said, this would be cool to have a sidekick that becomes your tools, that lets you go through an adventure. And then by the time it's done, he's throwing jelly beans to a blob that has escaped from a planet that is vitamin deficient, and they love sugar, and you end up with this story that sounds like psychedelic or whatever that goes together. So it's all iterative. You build like this, and I probably the diver in Poseidon is the most complicated sprite I've ever created in any video game ever. And it's really cool, and it's big, and it's got all this capability and such. And putting it underwater, might have been because I could put a spear gun in his hands. So now he's got a spear gun.
Well, you like the idea of the bubbles going.
Bubbles were the hardest thing ever. Like, if I told you how those bubbles
Except
worked.
for the QR code.
Well, the QR code was worse, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 1 minute, well, we're past 1 minute. But just to be completely mercenary, we're at booth 306. We have 4 titles that we've released. Circus Convoy, Dave and I did first about 3-4 years ago, and great game. Second title was John Van Ryzen of Hero fame, did Alien Abduction. We call it a spiritual successor to Hero. And it's great. People who love Hero love that game. Third one, Daniel's Casey's Gold, has been called the best game ever on the Atari 2600. Incredible reviews. The game is really just mind-bogglingly good. And Poseidon. So we got 4 games for sale. If you ask the question, everyone asks, what's the difference between the standard game and the collector game? Standard game is $60. Beautiful cartridge, manual, box, serial number. The collector game has all of that, plus a poster, a digital second version of the game, digital copy you can play on emulators, and a made-for-framing certificate of authenticity with a hologram and a sign by the designer. $60, $99, booth 306. We're going to be there when we leave here. Also, we don't charge for autographs. So if you have anything that you want to autograph, bring it along. If you need a Pitfall or a Keystone Kapers or a Crackpots, I'm sure one of these booths out here has one. Go buy it.
You have a backpack full of all your games.
Yes. We actually, at the last show where it was kind of a small show, and I was talking to a guy who had a used game booth, maybe three aisles over, and he goes, I don't know why, but everybody's looking for Pitfall. I said, I know why.
Although at the first show when somebody did that, they brought me a Pitfall and I signed it, and he was a vendor, and he went back and put it for sale, and he had 2 sitting there, and Pitfall, we sold over 4 million copies of Pitfall, so it's not collectible, it's not rare. And he had the one without signature was 50 cents, and the one with a signature was 75 cents. So thank you for telling me what I'm worth.
50% markup.
Yeah,
It was, gotta love it. Gotta love it. And sometimes we come to these shows with John Van Ryzen, but he's East Coast based, so he doesn't generally get out to the West Coast. But if you happen to go to a show on the East Coast, Long Island, retro game.
Do we have time for the question back?
We do. One more.
That gentleman had his hands raised.
I'm actually the next speaker also.
Oh.
I'm the surviving designer of the 2600, and I consider the 4 best original games for that platform to include Pitfall. Also River Raid, also Yard's Revenge, also Adventure.
Cool.
That's my top of the pile. Well done, Dave.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I know that guy.
I can't see. It's dark.
Joe DeCure.
Is that? No, I don't think so. It looks like Joe DeCure, but it's not.
No, not Joe DeCure.
No.
Nolan Bushnell?
No, it's not Nolan.
I know that. Yes.
So you gentlemen seem to enjoy telling your stories, and we love hearing them. Any ideas for, besides programming, putting together a book of your anecdotes?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. We'd love to see that. We'd love to hear it.
David records them all, and when I think of one and I'm in the mood to write, I write a 3-4 page story. And I have a folder with like 30 stories in it, and I'm eventually going to compile them together. You know, God willing, I'm eventually going to compile them together and someday publish it. And I'm sure I'll have these two guys contribute as well.
Can you have that done by May?
Yes. I don't want you
idea.
working all night, but
Good idea. Yes.
go ahead. Yes, young lady? Yes?
For me, whose idea were the patches?
Well, that was actually Jim Levy, our CEO, was a marketing genius when we founded Activision. And he did all sorts of cool things like that. But the beauty of it is they were free. You know, I mean, Activision was printing money, you know, making a lot of, taking our creative games and marketing them well. And so we had 6 or 7 people in a department with Jan Marcella, who you'll see she signed the certificates that go with the
The
patents.
letters, yeah.
And they were opening, during the Pitfall's heyday, they were opening 14,000 letters a week and responding to every one of them as best they could. So that's just a marketing thing, and it's pretty cool. I mean,
Brilliant.
I like to say that Microsoft thinks they invented video game achievements. Okay? Sorry, we were first.
By the way, we also have other games in development. So
We do.
look for next year. We'll have,
We're not giving any
we're not
deadlines.
saying when.
We're not telling when they're coming out.
Dan, I don't want you working all night, but it's got to be done by 2026. At some point, we will have new products
Yes.
for you to
Hopefully
enjoy.
one next year. We don't know when.
Cool. All right.
Thank you,
come
everyone,
visit
for
us at
coming.
306.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and here are a few more videos for you to check out.